Yo guys, welcome to the fight breakdown. Today we're going to be talking about UFC 313 and who we have winning in these fights. To kick off UFC 313, we got Jordan Santos versus Ozzy Diaz. Now, who do I have in this fight, guys? I have Jordan Santos. I mean, Jordan Santos just came off a very impressive unanimous decision win in the Dana White Contender Series. And Dana, he doesn't normally take guys when they win by decision, but this decision was just incredible. He was dominant in this fight, and he was the underdog. Now, Ozzy Diaz, all his fights end in a TKO, but he did come off a bad end of it last time by a brutal KO from Ming Yang Zhang. Now, I don't know if he's going to be the same, and just to be safe, I think I'll take Jordan Santos in this fight. For the second fight of the night, we got Mayron Santos versus Francis Marshall. Now, I think this is an easy pick. I got Mayron Santos. I mean, Francis Marshall is 2-2 in the UFC. He's lost by TKO in one of his losses, and he's riding one win, but it just wasn't really that impressive. Where Mayron Santos, he trains at Extreme Couture. He had a TKO win in his UFC debut, and he performed very well in the Ultimate Fighter. And I love the way this guy fights, and I think he will dominate Francis Marshall. All right, guys. Next up, we got Carlos Leal versus Alex Morono. Carlos Leal got robbed in his last fight. It was a very dominant fight for him. He was just amazing, in my opinion. And, Faktirov, he got the decision. But right before they unveiled the decision, he was a 20-1 to win this decision, which is just insane. You know, I don't know if them being in Abu Dhabi played a factor, but it might have. Well, Alex Morono lost to Nico Price recently. He lost a split decision to Rodriguez, and he just hasn't looked like he wanted to be in the octagon lately. So I'm going to go with the more comfortable fighter in the octagon, Carlos Leal. I believe he's going to win dominantly. I don't see the fight going to decision, but if it does, I'd be very surprised. Next up, we got Bruno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. Armen Petrosyan, his last loss was a double spinning back fist KO from Shara Bullet. But, guys, this man has very good distance control. I saw him doing very well in that fight with Shara, and I think he's going to do very well in this fight. I mean, he's 6'3". Ferreira's 5'10". Ferreira's only got 2 KO wins in the UFC, and they're over people 6 foot and under. And his last loss was to a guy that was 6'5", very similar to Armen Petrosyan. But he did lose by decision, by submission. And Armen, I don't think has very much high level submission skills. But guys, I just see him being too long for Ferreira, and Ferreira's gonna have trouble closing the distance on him. So I'm taking Armen Petrosyan by decision. Next up, for the final two fights of the prelims, we got Joshua Van versus Ray Tsuruya. Now, Tsuruya can do it all, but is this too high level of a fight for him early on in his career on short notice? I mean, he likes to fight the perfect fight, and we know Joshua Van. Joshua, he wins imperfect fights. I mean, he always makes it a war, and that's why I believe Joshua Van is going to win this fight. I mean, he had unanimous decisions over Durden and Chires, and those were very, very dig deep type of fights. I just don't think Ray Tsuruya can do that right now, especially early on in his career. He just doesn't have that experience. Next up, we got Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev. Now, Kuniev, I don't know why this guy's in the UFC. He got his win overturned versus Renan Ferreira in the PFL because of steroid use. And then the next fight he has is in the Contender Series. He wins by TKO. But guys, this guy's a cheat. I'm just saying, Curtis Blades is going to dominate this fight. He's going to either knock him out or submit him. All I know is that it's ending in the first round. That's what I think. I mean, he's number 5 in the heavyweight division, and this is Kuniev's first fight in the UFC. I'm just saying, guys, it's a recipe for disaster for Kuniev, and I think Blades is winning. All right, guys, next up, we got King Green versus Mauricio Ruffy. Mauricio Ruffy fighting out of the Fighting Nerds. Very talented striker, very talented kickboxer. Now, that's going to play a factor in this fight because Bobby Green is a boxer-style fighter. Now, he does have the grappling edge over Mauricio, as from what we've seen, at least he got a submission over Ferguson. That was pretty good, But Mauricio Ruffy, I think it's just going to be very hard for King Green to implement that takedown over Mauricio Ruffy. I mean, he's just such in a flow state when he fights. And Bobby Green always puts the pressure on people, but Mauricio Ruffy knows how to fight off the back foot. And when a fighter knows how to fight off the back foot, it doesn't normally go well for Bobby Green. I mean, take a look at his fight versus Jalen Turner. He got stopped very easily. And that's why I got Mauricio Ruffy in this fight. And it's either TKO or decision, obviously not submission, but I'd go decision, guys. I believe Bobby Green could last. Next up, we got Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Now, Lemos, since getting dominated by Zhang Wei Li, she's 1-1 in her last fights. I mean, she won versus Mackenzie Dern, but then she followed it up by a loss by submission. Uh, she has faced the best of the best, which Yasmin has not. Lucindo, the tougher the competition gets, she does tend to take it to decision, which I wouldn't be so confident versus Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos does have that KO power. She does have that experience, and she does have submissions in her arsenal. So I would take Amanda Lemos, and she is I think, the slight favorite. And I believe that's correct because this fight is close, but I think Amanda Lemos is gonna pull through. Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Jalen Turner, he's 14-8. He's 29 years old. He lost 3 of his last 4 fights and is 0-4 in fights that go to decision and is 10-4 in fights that go to TKOs or knockouts. He's 6'3", same height as Ignacio Bahamondes. But here's the thing, guys. I think Ignacio Bahamondes is going to dominate this fight. He's 16-5. He's 27 years old. He has a 2-fight win streak, and his last performance was incredible. He got a great knockout over Manuel Torres. He seems to be the more skilled fighter, in my opinion, at least striking-wise. And I think that's where this fight is going to take place in the striking realm. So I see Ignacio Bahamondes winning this fight by TKO, I'd say. All right, guys, next up we got Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Now, Fiziev, he's coming off a 2-year layoff, and he's taking a 5-round fight on 2 weeks' notice. Now, I don't think this is a good look for him. I mean, you saw in that 3-rounder versus Justin Gaethje, he was getting very tired at the end. Now, imagine going for 5 rounds with Justin Gaethje at that same pace, which I think is going to happen. It's just not going to go good. I got Justin Gaethje by TKO in this fight, especially considering that Justin Gaethje always finds a way to win every 2 fights, and he just lost by KO to Max Holloway. So I think a dominant performance from Justin Gaethje is coming. Next up, we got the main event of UFC 313. Let's get right into it. Alright, guys, next up we got Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Now, guys, this fight could go either 2 ways. We could either see Ankalaev go for the takedown relentlessly from the start, but I know that just won't happen because his natural instinct in a fight is to strike first. Now, we saw Ankalaev versus Rakic. He didn't go for a takedown. He just wanted to strike. We saw him versus Jan Blachowicz in the first 2 rounds. He just wanted to strike, but then he realized he couldn't deal with leg kicks. Now, what do you think is going to happen versus Alex Pereira with Alex Pereira's elite skills in his leg kicks? He has the best in the UFC. Now, how is Ankalaev going to deal with that? What he's going to do after the second round, I think he's going to do the same thing that he tried to do with Jan Blachowicz and go for the takedown constantly versus Potan. But I don't think that's going to go very well for him. I mean, Pereira has been practicing takedown defense, and I know it's not as elite as Ankalaev, but I think it's going to work some of the time, and it's going to keep the fight on the feet. And I think Pereira is going to probably get a finish in around the 4th round, just like he did versus Roundtree.